Well, hello Internet, and welcome to my CoffeeScript video tutorial. In the last tutorial, a whole bunch of people asked for CoffeeScript videos all of a sudden, so sure, I decided I would make them. And over the next two videos, I'm going to teach you all the basics you need to know to start using CoffeeScript. Now, the first thing you should know is CoffeeScript compiles into JavaScript. So you might say, well, why would anybody use it? Well, it's a language that tries to improve on JavaScript by taking less code to do the same things that JavaScript already does. And it uses a style that is similar to Python and Ruby that many people prefer. Also, many people prefer it because of how it uses classes and because of how it solves global scope pollution, which is caused with JavaScript. CoffeeScript, you may not know, is extremely popular and actually ranks higher than more profile languages like Swift, Scala, Visual Basic, and Lua. And now I'm going to jump over and show you how to install it. First thing you're going to need to do whenever you want to work with CoffeeScript is you're going to need to go to nodejs.org and download your version of Node.js based off of your operating system. Everything in this tutorial is going to work no matter what operating system you are on. And after you download and install Node.js, you're going to open up either your command prompt if you're on Windows or your terminal if you are on OS X or on Linux. Now inside of your terminal to install CoffeeScript, you're going to type in npm install-g coffee-script and hit enter. And everything's going to install for you. Then after that, you're going to go and load up whatever directory inside of your terminal or command prompt where you are going to have all your CoffeeScript files. And now I'm going to jump over and start writing that code. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an HTML file, and it's just a basic HTML file. And I'm going to be putting everything inside of a span. So let's come in here and let's just start typing that in. So I'm going to give it the ID of CS output, just to keep everything nice and simple, and everything is going to work exactly like JavaScript already works for you in regards to where you use your different scripts and so forth. And then of course we're going to load our CoffeeScript file, which is actually going to be a JavaScript file, and that is all we're going to need to do to be able to load all those and show everything in the browser. Right here I have Sublime Text, here I have Google Chrome, and down here I have my terminal. Now I'm going to open up another file called cstut.coffee, and let's take a look over here at how we're going to compile our CoffeeScript files into JavaScript. Now if you just want to compile one of the files, all you're going to do is go coffee -- compile and then cstut.coffee, which is the name of my file. It would be whatever the name of your file is, and hit enter and it will compile. But I much prefer to have everything auto compile, and to do that I just type in coffee-wc and then put a *.coffee, and it will automatically compile all of your CoffeeScript files as soon as they are saved and convert them into JavaScript files. So the very first thing we want to do is get past the basics. If you want to have a comment, just put a hash like that and whatever you want your comment to be. If you want to have a multi-line comment, you're just going to use 3 hash symbols and then 3 more hash symbols, and that is it. So that's how we're going to comment. It's very important to know that there is no var used whenever we are creating variables, and there are also no semicolons. We're going to be using white space to define exactly what we want to do. So let's just do a basic. Let's create a variable called name, and let's go and type in fill inside of there. Now to get access to that span that I want to output information to, I'm going to go cs output is equal to document dot get element by ID. And most of the things you're already doing with JavaScript you can automatically put inside of CoffeeScript, and it's just going to work. So we're going to go CS output because that is the ID for the span that I want to output information to. Again, no semicolons. And then I'm just going to go CS output dot inner HTML is equal to hello, and we're going to use something called string interpolation, and this is going to allow us to go and throw in a variable inside of there. We're going to save that. You can see it automatically compiled, and if we reload the screen, hello fill pops up right there. So that is very, very basic sorts of CoffeeScript. Let's get into more complicated things. Basically, variables are going to be strings, numbers, booleans, arrays, objects, undefined, or null. Those are everything you can use. So let's start off with a string, and I'm going to say I'm a string and define that. We're also going to be able to come in here and check the data types for everything. I want to output some new information to my span, so I'm going to go CS output, and I'm going to say here insert adjacent HTML, and I'm going to say before end, which means that I'm going to put whatever text I have here at the end of the span. So let's say I say something like a string is a string, and we're going to verify that. I'm going to throw a break inside of here. And let's say I only want this to output if the variable a string actually is a string. How do I do that? Well, I could say if type of a string is string, and we could save that. And you can see print it out hello fill, and a string is a string. We can correct this right here just by throwing a break statement inside of there, and there you go. So that's how we use an if statement, as well as how we check the type of our different data types. In regards to numbers and how big they can be, we're going to have precision issues, which I'm going to get into here in a moment, but all programming languages have precision issues. So let's say I wanted to get the largest number. You're going to be able to do that in exactly the same way you would with JavaScript. So max value, and let's go and also get our minimum value. So we'll say smallest number, and to get that we just change this to min, and let's play around here a little bit. Let's go large num string is equal to the largest number is, and then we can just go and get largest num, and now let's do exactly the same thing for our smallest number. Small and small and small once again, and here what I'm going to do is put large num string, and of course all the code that I have here is going to be available to you in the description for free, of course. And we'll do exactly, you can see here that I'm able to connect these two strings just by putting a plus sign. So that's how we do concatenation of strings, or combining of strings. And you can see the largest number is and the smallest number is, and exactly how those all work out for you. Now let's take a look at booleans, because they're a little bit weird. So you could do something like are you happy? This is a boolean. Now all the possible states for a boolean value inside of CoffeeScript are not only true and false. The true possibilities are actually true, yes, or on, and the false statements are either false, no, or off. So we could come in here for are you happy and put no inside of there if this person's feeling grumpy, and that is completely valid. We could then come in and let's change this up a little bit and verify that we have a boolean here. So we could say something like are you happy is a boolean, and of course we would be able to come in here and check the data type for this as well. If type of are you happy is boolean, and that will work. And if we reload it, you can see are you happy as a boolean pops up there on the screen. So that all works out perfectly. So that's a rough overview of variables. We're going to get into all the other variables in a little bit. Why don't we jump over and take a look at some of the math functions that are available to us. So let's go and do some just basic mathematics right here. If we want to perform some mathematical operations, we're going to do it in a very similar way. So we could come in here and do something like 5 plus 2 is equal to. And another thing to note is if you're using string interpolation or putting your variables inside of strings and you want them to output, you have to put double quotes around them. I'll show you what it looks like whenever you do not do that. So we'll just go and perform our arithmetic inside of there, and you're going to see that yes indeed that's going to work for us as well. So let's just reload it, and you can see 5 plus 2 equals 7. Now let's come in here and let's put in single quotes to see how that differs. And you can see there that the calculation did not take place. So that's just something else to know about. We're also going to be able to come in here and do subtractions, of course, as well as multiplications and also divisions, and then also modulus, which is going to return the remainder of a division. And you can see there how all those work out for us. You're only going to be able to rely on 16 digits of precision whenever you are working with floating point numbers or decimals, whatever you want to call them. So let's just go and create precision test, and then let's come in here and try to add numbers to it that are past that 16 digits of precision. And you can see right here all we did was add 1 at the end of there, going past that 16 digit point, and you can see that the addition was actually incorrect. So just make sure this isn't anything special with CoffeeScript. All programming languages have precision issues. It's just good to be aware of them. Another thing we can do is come in and round things. So let's say somebody has a balance of $1,563.87, and they want you to come in and tell them how much they would have to pay on a monthly basis to pay that off. We could come in here and round that down so only 2 decimal places show. All we're going to need to do, let's come in and do something like monthly payment is equal to, and then inside of here we can go and say something like balance divided by 12. And then if we want to make sure that this only has 2 decimal places whenever this calculation is performed, we'll just go 2 fixed and 2. You can see there that it went and performed that calculation and cut it down so that we have our cents properly structured there. Without the 2 fixed, that would have created some big giant long decimal place thing. Another thing that's important to know is there are shortcuts we can use whenever we're performing calculations. So let's just create a random number 5, and then we'll take a look at what would happen if we go rand num, and we could just go plus plus, and that's going to increment that value for us, but it may not increment it in a way that you would prefer, or it makes sense, whatever. You can see here is the white space I'm using, so that's very important. Here we're going to increment it in a completely different way, and then we're going to take a look at exactly what happens whenever we use these different ways of incrementing. And why don't we just come in here and also decrement these. So I'm going to change this to negative negative, and same thing here and there and here. Reload it, and you can see right here we started off with a value of 5. So why is this 5? Well, the reason why is whenever you use the plus plus after the variable, what that is saying is that you want to print the current value of random number, which is 5, and then increment it afterwards. So that's the reason why it doesn't show. But random number after this line right here is now having the value of 6. And whenever we come down here, what this is saying is that it wants to increment random number and then print it. So up here it got a value of 6, right here it got a value of 7, and that's the reason why it prints out 7. And whenever we decrement, that's going to do the same exact thing. We're also going to be able to come in here and perform a similar type of shortcut addition or subtraction or modulus or what have you. So let's say we come in here and go random number plus equals to, right like this, and you can see that this calculation is going to come out as 10. So anytime we want to take random number and add it to another number and then save it back into the variable random number, we can put plus equals, or we could put a negative, or we could have a multiplication or a division or a modulus inside of there. So that's just another shortcut that is available to us whenever we're performing mathematical calculations using CoffeeScript. Another thing that's important to understand is order of operations. So let's say we come in here and perform some calculations. So we can say something like 3 plus 2 times 5. Well, if we then come in and put parentheses around the 3 plus 2, and also of course did it here, otherwise it's not going to show, you're going to see that we get completely different information, and there you can see that right there. And the reason why is multiplication has a higher precedent over just simple addition. So that means in this situation it's going to multiply 2 times 5 and then add 3 to it. That's the reason why you get 13. Down here, however, parentheses have a higher precedent over multiplication, so what that's saying is the 3 is going to be added to the 2 multiplied times the 5, and that's the reason why we get 25. So it's very important to pay attention to how we use parentheses when we're performing mathematical calculations. Now, there are a whole bunch of built-in properties and functions built into CoffeeScript, and they're exactly the same as they are with JavaScript. So we're going to be able to get the value of e, pi, we're going to be able to calculate absolute values, cube roots, ceilings, floors, rounds, log, log 10, power, square roots, and so forth and so on. And you can see exactly how all those are going to work for us. The absolute value, of course, is going to get rid of that negative sign. Ceiling is going to round up no matter what it is. So that's why we get 7 here. Floor is going to round down no matter what the value is. While round is going to round up whenever this is a 5. It's a 4, so it doesn't get rounded up. There's log, log 10, power, 4 to the power of 2, and square root of 1000. And you can play around with those along with all the other different math functions that are available and built into CoffeeScript. And also, of course, we're going to be able to come in and get a random value. And how we would go and generate a random value. Let's go random number is equal to, we're going to say math and floor, because we want this to round down. Then we're going to call the math library to get us a random number. We are then going to say that we want a maximum number of 100 and we want a minimum value of 1. That is exactly how we would calculate that. And then of course we can output this on our screen is equal to, and then we'll just put in rand num, reload it, and you can see random number 69, random number is 98, and so forth and so on. Every time you reload the browser window, you're going to get a different random number. So there's an overview of how we can use mathematical functions in CoffeeScript. Now let's take a look at how we can use strings. To To start off, I'm just going to create two strings. So I'm going to have first name, and this is going to be Derek, and then last name, and that's going to be Banis. Now you're going to be able to concatenate or join two strings just by using the plus sign. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say first name plus, and I'm going to put a space between there, throw in another one, and I'm going to say last name plus, and you can see right there it went and connected or concatenated those two strings for me. I could then come in and create a longer string and perform a whole bunch of other different things. So let's say that I wanted to come in here and get the string length. Go in here and we'll just say string length, and to get it I can just go long string followed by length, and you can see string length comes back as 42. We could also get the index of a matching string. And let's say that we were specifically going to be looking for the word goes inside of here in the index for where goes starts. So we can go index of and then pass inside of it the string that we were specifically looking for, and it'll pop back the starting index for it. Now that we have that starting index, we could also get a character at an index. So let's say that we want to get a character that is in index 8. Just go character at and 8. And there you can see A is at the index of 8. You could also go and get a substring. So let's say we wanted to get word at 27. In this situation, we're going to use a function called slice. So we want to start at the 27th index, and we want to get up to index 30. So in that situation, we're going to type 31 in there because it's not going to include this. It's going to go up to that point. You can see there we got the word goes. Could also come in and get every single character that comes after a certain index. So we'll say we want everything after the 27th index. We'll just use a more simplified version of slice, and you can see it gets all of the characters that follow thereafter. We're also, of course, going to be able to come in and replace different strings. So let's say that we want, well, let's do this in a different line. We'll go long string is equal to, and long string replace. And let's say we want to replace the word for the string forever with a string that is and on forever. We could do that, and then we could come down and go new string and just output our new string. And there you can see I went in and replaced forever with on forever. We're also going to be able to come in and easily convert our strings into arrays. So let's just create a new variable called string array. Long string, and then we're going to say split, and we're going to define how we want it to be split. So all of our words are separated with spaces, so we're going to say we want to split everything based off of that. And I'll give you a brief introduction to for loops. A for loop's going to be used here to cycle through all of our different array items. We'll get more into for loops in a second. But basically it's going to go to the first item that's in the array, and it's going to output it, then the second, then it's going to output it, and so forth and so on. So let's just come down here and simplify this dramatically. Instead, we're going to come in and we'll just put the value of x inside of there and reload, and you can see that all of those different words are all printed out there all on their own line, all because the break statement's right there. We could also come in here and put in a whole bunch of extra space, save that, reload it, and you're going to see there's a lot of additional space here. Well, what would happen if we wanted to get rid of that additional space? Well, we could go long string is equal to long string dot trim, and all the white space in the front and the back are going to be eliminated. And we'll also be able to come in and do a whole bunch of other things. Let's get rid of that, and we'll go long string. Let's say we wanted to convert everything to uppercase letters, and we could also convert everything to lowercase letters just by changing this to low. And made a little bit of a bug here. Let's go ahead and make sure this is uppercase with a capital C and a capital C. I make the mistakes, you don't have to. And once we do that, you can see everything's in uppercase, and here everything's in lowercase. So there's an overview of strings. Now we're going to jump over and take a look at conditionals. Now conditionals with CoffeeScript is going to work very similar to JavaScript, except we're going to be using indentation instead of curly brackets. And the different comparison operators we have available in CoffeeScript are going to be equals, not equals, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. And the one thing that we need to know here is in CoffeeScript we're going to be using equals equals and not equals, and they are exactly the same as in JavaScript's 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 not equals. So these guys right here in CoffeeScript are equivalent to these guys right here. And how they differ is in JavaScript, normally this just checks the value while this checks the value and the type. and the same thing is true with the not equal. And we can come in here and we can create age 3, and we could do something like if age, we don't need to use parentheses if we don't want to, if the age is greater than or equal to 18, and then let's output some different information on the screen. So in this situation, what we're going to do is we're going to say you can vote. Can vote. Also, I don't think I mentioned this before. Before end means you're going to put this at the end of the span. You could also come in and type in before begin, and that would put it to the beginning of the span. We can also, of course, come in here and also perform. We could use parentheses, of course, if we'd like to, and I often like to just because it feels good. You can also put multiple different if statements inside of here and know that if this comes back true, not only this is going to execute, but also this is going to execute. So here we can say if age is greater than or equal to 16, we're going to say in that situation, we're also going to output you can drive. Also, of course, I know that if age is greater than or equal to 18, that they're definitely going to be greater than 16. I'm just doing it this way so that I can demonstrate we can put if statements inside of if statements. We're also going to be able to come in here and say else if, and age is greater than or equal to 16. If this comes back as negative, let's say they are 16 years old, well, this is never going to be reached. So what it's going to do then is it's going to come down here and check if age is greater than or equal to 16 in that situation. So this else if is tied to this if statement, not this one. So in this situation, we're going to come in here and we're going to say you can drive. And then if neither of those come back positive, we can say else, and we can say something like you'll. But what are we going to do in a situation in which these are single quotes? Like this. Well, we wouldn't know whenever the one ends and the other one doesn't end. Situations in which you want to use characters in that situation, we're going to backslash them. So that's how we'd be able to use our single quotes inside of there. And here we'll say something like you'll be 16 soon, and get out that extra little quote. And you always want to make sure that your indents right here are all indented like that. And we can save that and reload it. And you'll be 16 soon shows up right there. And if we want to see how this works, we could come in and change the age to 16 and see that you can drive pops up there. So that guy goes in there. Could also use another similar statement called unless. And unless is going to execute if the test returns false. So here we'll say unless the age is greater than or equal to 19. And we'll output some information. And here we'll say you are in school. Else, we can also use else with the unless statement. And here we'll say you may go to college, and you can see how that works. And now let's take a look at logical operators. Now your logical operators are going to be and, or not, and I'm going to show you how exactly all of those are going to work for us. So we could do something like if not age is greater than 4. Let's go with that. So in this situation, if this comes back as a true, the not is going to turn it into false, or if it comes back false, it's going to turn it into true. We're also going to be able to say or age is greater than 65. So if the person has an age that is less than 4 or an age that's greater than 65, we are going to say whether they can go to school or not. And of course, people that are over the age of 65 can go to school. I'm just using this as an example. And here we'll say you don't. Remember, backslash that. You can use the single quote, go to school. So if either of those come back positive, this guy right here is going to execute, and that's what the or statement does for us. Then we can say else if age is greater than or equal to 5, and whenever we use and, that's going to say that this condition is going to have to be true, as well as this condition right here, age is less than or equal to 6. So if both of those are true, then we're going to output more information, and that is going to say go to kindergarten. Then we could also say else if age is greater than 6 and age is less than or equal to 18. Perform a calculation inside of here. So we'll say school grade is equal to go to grade, and then we'll get their age minus 5 and throw a break statement inside of there as well, and then output some information on the screen. Here we'll just go and get rid of the quotes altogether and instead just put school grade here. And then finally, as a default, we can say else, and I'll put some stuff on the screen, and we'll just say go to work. And if we save that and reload it, you can see go to grade 11 shows up there on our screen. Another thing comes up a lot is the ternary operator. So let's say you wanted to set a value to a variable depending upon a condition. So we'll say something like, if the age is greater than 18, then I want to assign to the variable voting age the value of true, else I want to assign to it the value of false. That is exactly how that would work. And then we could come in here and voting age and reload it. And you can see it comes back as false. So that's a ternary operator. We also have a switch. So let's create a new variable here called child age is equal to 7. This is going to perform certain conditions on a limited number of possible values. So we'll say if the child's age is equal to 5, that's what the win5 does, then we want to output some information on our screen. And in this situation, that information is going to be go to kindergarten. Else, we could come in and say when, and we could use multiple values here. We could say 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. So if the value of child age is any of those different values, then we want to output different information. And in those situations, we'll say go to elementary school. And then finally, as a default, we'll say else. I'll put that information again, and we don't know where they're supposed to do or where they're supposed to go, so we'll just say someplace, I don't know. And you can see there it comes back as go to elementary school. Another thing that's kind of neat is, let's say we want to do something if a variable has a value, but not do something if it doesn't. Well, let's say in this situation, if age doesn't have a value, what we're saying here is if age has a value, we want to output some information. That's what the little question mark there does. And we could just say something like age, years old, and if age doesn't have a value, it will not do anything. But make sure we put double quotes on this, and there it works. That's called the existential operator, that guy right there, and we can use it to do a couple other different things. Like let's say we have a variable called chicken, has a value of null, and we wanted to assign a value to chicken name, and we want that value to be equal to whatever the value of chicken is, unless chicken doesn't have a value. And in that situation, we would want to instead assign the value of Fred. That's how we would do that. Just a neat little thing we can do here. And you can see right there, chicken name Fred comes back. And then as a final example of what we can do with this existential operator, let's say we have a whole bunch of different values, and we want to go and perform an operation only if certain values have a value. Once again, we'll say if hat, and we can use and, or we can use and. I'm going to use and in this situation just to show you something different. So we'll say only if hat and coat have a value do we want to output information, and the information we can put is hat and then coat. But what happens in the situation where we have gloves that doesn't have a value? Well, what we can do is we can say if gloves has a value, that's what the existential operator does, we're going to output it, and otherwise if it doesn't, we're going to say something like winter gloves, and we can do that, reload it, and you can see exactly how that works. So that's the existential operator and conditionals and a whole bunch of other different things, and I'm out of time. In the next part of the tutorial, I'm going to teach you all the rest of the other different interesting things we can do with CoffeeScript. But before I let you go, just wanted to let you know that after I did about 8 tutorials and only earned $3.49, I decided I was going to have to look for another way to fund making my educational videos on YouTube. So I started a Patreon account, and I wanted to specifically thank the 10 people that have currently signed up to be patrons. I greatly appreciate it, and I will be giving you a whole bunch of exclusive video tutorials very soon. And if anybody out there would like to throw $1 at me, I would greatly appreciate it. And just like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.